Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. So, at the time of this recording, there's still about an hour and a half before the big game happened. And if you want to hear my prediction of who's going to win the Super Bowl this year, I have to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. And it's obvious why I go with the Bengals. I mean, not only the fact that I'm a huge fan of Joe Burrow, but also the fact that you know my opinions toward an LA team and that I do not want to see another LA team winning a championship. And let's also not forget who, of course, owns the Rams. I mean, the guy that basically owns the Rams is considered one of the most hated owner in the world, and I'm pretty sure Rapids fan can definitely attest to that too. But nevertheless, despite the fact that I am picking the Bengals, if the Rams win, I won't. I mean, I will be a little bit frustrated, but I won't be in a way where be angry the fact that they won. And especially there are some players on that team that I think deserve to have a Super Bowl. I mean, Matthew Stafford is one of those players that I definitely do not mind seeing him winning a Super Bowl, especially his journey and his career. And then there's also other guys on that team that has been gone through a lot and definitely deserve to have a ring next to their name. But nevertheless, enough with the NFL talk, because again, this is an MLS channel, not an NFL or football channel. And let's get back to talking about Atlanta United and do a season preview for them. So speaking of NFL, Atlanta United, of course, playing in kind of an NFL stadium. Well, I wouldn't say an NFL stadium, more like appropriately, I'll say it's a multi-purpose stadium because they share the same stadium as the Falcons. So, if you ask me what is the best multi-purpose stadium in the league, I would say Atlanta United probably have the best one considered that stadium. I mean, I'm definitely going to one day go to that stadium because that stadium looked like one, if not the best stadium in the world. But nevertheless, for Atlanta United, they're definitely trying to be one of the best, if not the best team in the league by the end of this upcoming season. And it just kind of feels like they have finally reloaded and finally started to look like the Atlanta United that we know of when they came into the league in the first couple of seasons. Now, last year, they kind of show signs of that, finally getting back to the playoffs with a 13-12-9 record and finished with 51 points. They scored 45 goals last season while allowing 37 goals and had a goal differential of +8. So, while, the amount of goals that they score is still not up to Atlanta United standards, I mean, this is a team that should be like a 50-plus goal scorer, especially with the talent that they had. But their defense is still exceptional. I mean, 37 goals is some of the least amount of goals that any team has conceded, and their defense is definitely above average compared to the rest of the league. And they had a goal differential of +8, and they finished 5th in the Eastern Conference, though they did lose in the first round to the eventual MLS Cup champion NYCFC. Now, last 5 seasons, as I mentioned, they finished 5th in 2021, but 2020 was really a time where it was the first real season where Atlanta United really struggled and had to go through a bit of a transitional period as they finished 12th that season. But before that, in 2019, they finished 2nd in the standings. In 2018, when they win MLS Cup, they finished 2nd in the standing also. And then in their very first season, they become one of the few teams to make it to the playoff in their expansion year by finishing 4th in the standings. Now, in terms of players that they bought this offseason, obviously the biggest name is Thiago Almada from Villa Sarsfield that they bought for $16 million, which is elite transfer record. They also got Bobby Shuttleworth from the Chicago Fire, Ozzy Alonso from Minnesota United, and I'm assuming this is probably most likely Ozzy's last season in his career. I mean, he is starting to get up to that age, especially during his time with Minnesota, where I think in the latter part of last season, you can definitely sense that Ozzy probably started to run out of energy and doesn't have a lot left in the tank. But they also have Dylan Casteiro from Inter Miami, Tristan Traeger, Daniel Balud, and Eric Quintana that they picked up, although all 3 of those names that I mentioned, they picked up from the Super Draft. Now, players that they lost this offseason, the biggest names they lost this offseason is George Bello, and, this is not a big surprise because there seems to be like a Bello saga throughout this offseason of where exactly he's going to be end up. And in the end, he is going to be going to Germany and going to the Bundesliga with Armenia Bielefeld. They also lost Franco Escobar, who's going to be going to LAFC. Kubo Torres going to Orange County. Mo Adams to Inter Miami. Alec Khan to FC Cincinnati. And then another big piece that they lost in the back line is Anton Walks, who they lost in the expansion draft to Charlotte FC. They also lost Josh Bauer going to Nashville SC. And then Ezekiel Barco, who technically they still have him on the roster because they only loaned him to River Plate, but I doubt that he is probably going to be coming back to this team, especially if Amanda is going to be the guy that they thought he is and is going to light up this league and kind of be maybe the next Miguel Almiron of this team. I can see Barco potentially sold off either to River Plate or to somewhere else. And then the only other player that is still a free agent that Atlanta, of course, cut as part of the end of season roster is Ben Lundgaard. Now, optimism for this Atlanta United team. As I said, it feels like they look reloaded for an MLS Cup run. I mean, the pieces are definitely there. Their attack started to look like the Atlanta United that we know from old. They have a decent crops of midfielders and depth in that spot. And I think the only question I will say is and we're definitely going to get to it, is the back line of this team, where it's still good, but it's going to be a back line that definitely lacks some depth in terms of their team. And then not to mention they still have Brad Guzan, who, even though he is starting to getting up to that age, Brad Guzan is still performing at a top level. And then, of course, Gonzalo Pineda, being a top-tier head coach. I mean, I really believe he's going to be a top-tier head coach. And the fact that, when Atlanta did snatch it up from the Seattle Sounders, I think that was a great hire. And especially, we knew this was coming with the way that Gonzalo Pineda and doing his time with Seattle and being the right-hand man of Brian Schmetzer, and that there's always that rumor of when exactly is he eventually going to be leaving the Sounders to pursue his own head coaching gig. And here we are. He finally decided to do it last season, joining Atlanta United, and definitely have already shown that he can be a top-tier head coach in this league. Now, in terms of concern for this Atlanta United team, no good backup option in the number 9 position. And this has been the biggest concern with this team for the past couple of years, where, despite the fact that they do have arguably the best striker in the league in Joseph Martinez, when he goes down, then they are kind of screwed a little bit in that number 9 position. Now, originally, I thought Luis Araujo was going to be the guy that fills into that spot, but he doesn't really kind of play into that spot, or kind of like a natural number 9. And I'm assuming most likely if Joseph Martinez does go down, they're probably going to have to put Araujo in that, even though he's not a natural number 9. Though I did hear that there is a rumor that they are going to try to maybe sign Dom Dwyer and give Dom Dwyer a trial for this team, which, if that's the case, boy oh boy, the irony of that would be tremendous, with the way that, how Atlanta United fans hate Dom Dwyer doing his time with Orlando City, and now all of a sudden he decided to join the enemy and join the other team. I mean, Dom Dwyer, I will say that, yes, I know he's way past his prime, but he can still at least bring something to this team. And again, they are desperate in terms of looking for a good backup option in that number 9 position, which is also why I feel like maybe they should have focused on that spot a little bit more, because it feels like for the past couple of years, they are kind of riding on this Joseph Martinez or nothing kind of tactics going forward on the attack. And it's not a bad strategy, because, like I said, Joseph Martinez, probably the most lethal goal scorer in the league, and you definitely saw that last season, especially in the latter part of the season, he started to look like the Joseph that we know of. And when Joseph is back to his old self, boy, watch out. He's going to be a 20-plus goal scorer, and a guy that is gonna gun for the Golden Boot this season. Is Thiago Amanda going to be a hit or bust? So, we've seen before where Atlanta is not afraid to splash cash in terms of the number 10 position, but we also have seen how when they splash cash on those number 10s, and they turns out to be a huge bust. And good example of that is Pity Martinez, their last big signing, where they splash out a big amount of money. And, Pity Martinez, at time, he definitely showed his quality, and why, when they, of course, got what was then the South American player of the year, it was a well investment, but there was just too many times where he does not look like the $15.5 million man that Atlanta United decided to get. And I would also say the same thing about Ezekiel Barco too, though Barco finally had a breakout season last year, and it seems like now he's finally going to get his wish of making a big money move to somewhere else, either back to his native country in Argentina with River Plate, or potentially going overseas. So yeah, there's been definitely some more buzz in terms of these big money signing that Atlanta has had that actually hit, and we'll see whether or not if Thiago Almondra is going to be a hit or bust. And that, I've already heard there are some people that may be a little bit skepticism in terms of this signing, and the fact that some people might even say that he's not really kind of a creative player that Atlanta United was hoped to have. And not to mention, obviously, the other thing that I think maybe brings Thiago Almondra's stock a little bit low right now is because of his on the field and off the field situation. Though, Gonzalo Pineda have already said that they have dealt with that, and that it seems like he's not going to have that same issue when he is now joining this team. And then the last thing to be concerned with this team is the back line. I mean, the back line definitely lost some key pieces and depth. One of the key pieces, as I mentioned, is George Bello and Tom Walks, and that, those two players were really key pieces for this back line for Atlanta United last season. And then in terms of the depth, they lost Franco Escobar to LAFC, and he's a really good depth piece in terms of that defense. I mean, the good news is they still have Miles Robinson in that back line, and Miles Robinson is another player that is a key defender for this Atlanta United back line. But knowing the fact that they definitely lost some key pieces in depth, I don't think this back line is going to be as good as what we saw from last season. Though they still have time to maybe make some more signings in terms of improving this back line and trying to get back to the level that they've been showing the last two seasons. Where if there's one thing that Atlanta United has been doing much better, even though they've gone through a downward turn these last couple of seasons, is that their backline has gotten stronger. Like, this was one of the Achilles heel that they had even during their time of success, where the backline was always questioned whether or not if it's good or not. Well, it is definitely good, and it's gotten even better as the years goes along. But now it seems like maybe it started to kind of go backwards a little bit in terms of quality with some of the key players that they lost this off season. Now, in terms of MVP for this team, I mean, I want to say Joseph Martinez, but when you pay $16 million to get a guy from Argentina and you expect to be the creative player, it's got to be Thiago Almondra. I mean, he has to be a player that in order to live up to the price tag, he needs to put up assist number that is going to be near the top three in the league. Like, you do not pay a guy $16 million and break a league record transfer fee to be an average kind of number 10. So there's a lot of expectation that he can definitely be the heart and soul on that attack, and that is exactly why I chose him as the MVP. Now, in terms of comeback player, I mean, I'm kind of a little bit nitpicky in terms of this, but I'm going to go with Joseph Martinez. And again, it's not because he had a bad season last year. Last season, it was kind of what I expected from Joseph Martinez. Like, he started the year slow because he still need to kind of get back to his old self after coming back from a torn ACL injury. But as the year gradually goes on, then of course he started to get better. Now, the only reason why I still say he's a comeback player is because, this is really the season where we'll start to finally see the Joseph Martinez that we know from previous year, and he's going to go wild in terms of the goal scoring throughout the entire season. So yeah, that's why I kind of go with him as a comeback player, even though technically, I mean, again, I'm being a little bit nitpicky in terms of the comeback player. And recently, I am having some trouble in terms of comeback player in some of these teams, especially some of these teams that are higher up in the standings. Now, expectation for this Atlanta United team, MLS Cup contender. I mean, it's pretty obvious that this is a team that is going through this season and to try to get themselves back to making an MLS Cup, and it's not going to be easy because they have some competition in the Eastern Conference. Like, I feel like when they of course won MLS Cup back in 2018, they also had some competition that during that season. But one thing that I know about that Atlanta United team from a couple years is that they were really the cream of the crop in terms of the Eastern Conference. Like there literally is nobody else in that East that it has as strong of a squad as Atlanta United has, and why a couple of years ago a lot of people, including myself, said it's Atlanta to lose in terms of reaching to MLS Cup. Now this year, with the way that when you look at the squad, it is still a very talented squad, but it's definitely not at a level where they're really kind of like the cream of the top, or they're the team to beat in the East. There's other team around them that has similar quality, and it's gonna be interesting to see when they do face against their most intense competition. Especially, I think one of the most intense competition that they're going to be facing is that team just 400 miles south of them in Orlando City. And that again, if you thought that rivalry between Orlando and Atlanta has not already started to spark a great fire, it's about to get even more heated with the way that this is really the first time when we actually see both teams be one of the top team in the Eastern Conference, and there's going to be some really good game between those two hated foes. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys see a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Atlanta United fan, what's your optimism, your concern, and most importantly, your expectation for this upcoming season. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.